Hello, everyone, and welcome to Language Talk. Today on Language Talks, we are joined by Dr. Swapnil Shri from Delhi. He is a scholar of German studies from Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. Her work includes German literature, media studies, cultural studies, and language pedagogy. Her research explores the fascinating Grimm fairy tales in contemporary literature, particularly the reinterpretations of Snow White across films, television, and digital media. Alongside her academic work, she has several years of experience teaching German as a foreign language. So we can say she connects language, literature, media, storytelling, folk tales in unique ways. Hi, Swapnil.
Hello. Thank you so
Welcome to
much
the
for giving
show.
me this opportunity.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Well,
I would like to start by asking you what first drew you towards German language and literature as a field of study?
Yeah, I would say that my interest in German language and literature developed from two different but complementary motivations.
Mhm.
Initially, my attraction to German was quite practical. I knew that learning German could open up a variety of academic and professional opportunities for me, which made it a very appealing choice. At the same time, I was fascinated by the idea of learning a language that was completely new to me and not commonly
Mhm.
spoken by the people around me. Challenge of entering a different linguistic and cultural world was something I found very exciting. And my interest in literature, however, goes way back. I mean, ever since childhood, I have been an enthusiastic reader. I particularly
Mhm.
enjoyed short stories and would eagerly read whatever I could find. I still
Mhm.
remember receiving my English and Hindi textbook at the beginning of the school year and finishing all the literary chapters within just a few days. Reading was never merely an academic activity for me, but it was something I genuinely loved. So, over time, these two interests naturally came together. Studying German
Mhm.
gave me access to a rich literary and intellectual tradition, while literature provided a meaningful way to engage with the literature beyond grammar and vocabulary. So,
Mhm.
as I progressed in my studies, became increasingly interested not only in literary texts themselves, but also in the cultural and theoretical questions they raise. So that
Wow.
combination of language, literature, and culture is what ultimately drew me towards the German language and literature as a field of study.
That is amazing. I think your childhood interest in literature drew you towards this, and you have been doing that since a long time, right?
Yeah.
Your academic journey spans literature, media, and cultural analysis. So please tell us more about it.
Yeah, I have a very strong interest in literature and storytelling, as I already mentioned, right? So, while studying
Mhm.
literary texts, I was introduced to various cultural theories, literary theories, as well as this intricate relationship between literature and culture, the society.
Mhm.
These theoretical frameworks enabled me to look beyond text and examine how narratives reflect, shape, and change societal values and cultural practices.
Mhm.
As I engage with these theories, these they gradually broaden my perspective and deepen my understanding of society, identity, and culture. So, in a way, I kind of started finding myself through the help of these theories. They
Okay.
encouraged me to view literature not merely as a collection of stories, but as a medium through which broader cultural and social dynamics can be explored. So,
Mhm.
since childhood, I have been trying to find the answers to everything that is happening, especially in my family or the world around me in the environment. And as I work on the feminist interpretation of fairy tales, so yeah, that is also something that
Mhm.
has come from there only.
Okay. I
Yeah.
find that really fascinating. Interpretation of fairy tales. It is
Yeah.
so amazing.
Yes. So, and
And
as something was remaining, as you also asked about the interest in media studies. So, it
hmm,
developed actually alongside the literary foundation. Apart from reading literature, I have always been an avid viewer of films. As I become familiar with cultural theories, increasingly curious about how these frameworks could be applied to cinema, digital media, and contemporary forms of storytelling. There we come to the fairy tale as well. So,
right,
observing
right.
yeah, so all these things were like these are traditional narratives, cultural ideas, and social
Mhm.
discourses. These are adapted and transformed through digital media, and
Mhm.
these sparked my interest.
This is amazing. So according to you, what role does literature play in our lives?
So for me, literature plays a very vital role, very important role. in it helps us understand both ourselves and the world around us. Through stories, poems, dramas, and other forms of creative expression, literature preserves human experiences, emotions. It can be emotions, values, cultural memories as well across time and space. There are various yawns of, or you can say, genre of literature. So one of the most important function is fostering empathy. By engaging with characters from different backgrounds, cultures, and again historical period, readers are exposed to perspective that may be very different from their own. This ability to see the world through another person's eyes encourages reader, like they encourage them to have greater understanding and compassion towards each other. And as we are taught in German studies, that Literatur ist eine Widerspiegelung der Gesellschaft. It's
Correct.
actually the mirror and the lens as well. Literature it reflects the social, political, and cultural realities of the particular era. So it allows us to, it not only tell us about the situation in that particular time and space, but at the same time, it also lets us critically analyze the situation. So, yeah.
Yeah, you're so right. And all these qualities are so important in our lives to understand the world. True. Mhm. So, why do you think fairy tales still continue to remain relevant even in today's world?
Okay. So, in order to answer that, it's also stop. If I just take an example, to start with an example of Snow White, because that is my like topic which I'm research I have been researching on for since years. So it was first collected Brothers Grimm in 1800s. The manuscript was in 1810, and the first publication of the tale was in 1812. That was the first publication of their storybook, The Children and Household Tales. And they themselves adapted it in 7 various editions. Like they edited it again and again, 7 times. That again, and then from there till here, till now, it has been adapted in various media, intermediate adaptations, and also in the various ways it has been transformed. Fairy tales are something that they are not strict. They are not adamant on sticking to their own narrative storyline and everything. They change with the changing society. So they address fundamental human experiences and concern that transcend time, space, and culture. Right. This fairy tale, which was relevant in 1810, and even before that, that was the first recorded time period which was recorded. Right. But it existed even before that, and it is still relevant today. So why is it? It contains various themes like joy, jealousy, ambition, fear, justice, transformation. My favorite one is the search for identity. So these things have been meaningful since always, and they will remain meaningful. They change themselves. The core remains the same, but at the same time, few elements change in order to adapt to the dominant idea of the contemporary society in which they are being produced or reproduced again and again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This is very interesting. So, was there any particular reason, like Snow White?
Yes, actually, when we talk about Snow White, it combines like universal human themes, right? Here they are not only, this is not the rivalry between evil, good, and bad. It is also, one need to see beyond that. Here one talks about beauty, jealousy, power, innocence, transformation, resilience, right? That the struggle, it continues. Whosoever is the person who looks to the fairy tale, they can find their own a message which is totally like tailored for them in a way. So yeah, and one reason for its longevity is the complexity of its central relationships, particularly dynamic between Snow White and the Queen. The story is not simply a conflict between good and evil, it also raises question about identity, aging, social expectations, as the ways in which women are positioned in relation to beauty and power, which is actually ongoing. Unfortunately, we are still in the same loop. So, yeah, and these themes allow each generation to reinterpret the tale according to their own cultural concerns. Another factor is the taste flexibility again, as we already talked about the flexibility or adaptability of the fairy tales, where they
Correct.
adapt according to the needs of the society. So,
Mm.
Snow White has been adapted into literary works, films, TV series, graphic novels, digital media, like whatnot. And
Mm.
every adaptation has emphasized different aspects of the narrative. So,
Mm.
this again to evolve while retaining its recognizable core has helped the story to remain culturally relevant.
Wow, this was so nicely explained. Thank you.
You also had this question, how was I first
Ah,
introduced to the world of fairy tales?
yes,
So
please.
it was
Ah.
because of my father initially.
Mhm.
And I think I personally have not seen any other father sitting with a daughter and watching fairy tale movies. Right. So my father
Right.
used to go to library and go like find these CDs and DVDs of fairy tales, especially Disney. That was Disney that I was consuming at that age. So he used to sit with me and watch these. So that was the very first introduction to fairy tales for me. And
Mm.
I was just consuming it. I was a child. I didn't know how to analyze it, how to criticize it. So I was consuming it.
Mm.
But later on, when it was during my master's studies, we had this course about fairy tales. And thanks to
Mm.
my professor there, the way, not only the course, but also the way she interacted with us, she just, you're teaching a fairy tale and your mode of your methodology is storytelling, questioning
Mm.
along with that, right? So the way she made me understand the importance and power of storytelling, and then finally also I came to realize, okay, this is something that I'm interested in and this can be
Mm.
worked with academically. And
Mm.
that was like something of, it was a like big turn in my life. So yes. And
Wow.
actually, this is the problem. This is a problem with people nowadays. They're trying
Mm.
to find practicality everywhere and logic everywhere. There is logic, there is practicality in the fairy tales as well. But we need to understand fairy tale is a different world. Our world in which we are living is a different world. Our world acts according to the physics and the rules that are given in this reality. But at the same time, fairy tale world has its own reality and rules. So if the
Mm.
tree can transform or fly, it has been given the ability to fly.
Mm.
So if again, if I want to Red Riding Hood trying to go to the grandmother's place, she is not
Mm.
just wishing and going. She has to go through the forest. She came in contact with the wolf. So things happened. You had to act. So it's not
Mm.
happening out of thin air. Nothing is
Correct.
happening like that. So it has its own logic. So it's very
Mm.
important to understand that before we start
Mm.
criticizing fairy tale for being illogical.
Yes, and I think it fuels our imagination also. I mean,
Yeah. I mean,
trying to.
being so bored in today's day-to-day life and then just imagining, okay, fine, there's a tree which is flying, a forest full of flowers where there are various animals who can talk to me and who are actually ultimately going to help me out of the forest, through
Mm.
which I'll pass and then I'll have a different identity, all the struggles that I have been going through. So again, a motivation comes here. Yes, this is the forest I'm walking through right now. There are various elements. If there are challenges, there are helps as well, given by the
Mm.
universe, given by the nature. So they are all. We just need to have strength and keep moving. And ultimately, we are going to
Absolutely.
find ourselves.
Yes. I mean, that is what we learn from all these readings, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, great. So, moving on from fairy tales to your German teaching. You have taught learners from school students to working professionals. So, what differences do you notice in them, like in the learning patterns or teaching patterns, everything?
Actually, teaching learners from different age groups has shown me that each group brings their distinct strength and challenges to the learning process, right?
Okay.
If we are
Mhm.
talking about school students, they are
Mhm.
generally more receptive to new information and
Mhm.
often acquire language structures and pronunciation more intuitively. They tend to
Mhm.
learn best through interactive activities, games, stories, and consistent practice. But maintaining motivation and helping them understand the long term value of language is something that is challenging. That this is the challenge that I have faced in my experience. And when we talk about working professionals, on the other hand, they are usually highly goal oriented. They often approach language learning with a specific objective, such as career advancement, international education, communication, higher education, or relocation opportunities, right? So
Correct.
their motivation tends to be stronger and more sustained, but they may face constant related like constraints related to time, workload, and balancing multiple responsibilities at the same time, right? So as a result, they often prefer structured lessons that focus on practical application and measurable outcomes. Another noticeable difference is in the learning strategies. Younger learners are generally less self conscious and are willing to experiment with the language. Even when making mistakes, they are like just there, out there. They are showing themselves out and they are enjoying making mistakes as well. But when we talk about adult learners, they often possess greater analytical skills and can understand grammatical concepts more strictly, but they may be more hesitant to speak due to the fear of errors or concerns about accuracy. So, again, in teaching, and especially in language teaching, this is the biggest challenge that I have faced, that the students are not willing to speak a lot, the young ones.
Yes.
We need to first
Okay.
see the learners and then needs and then design it accordingly.
I see. Yes. So your language teaching pattern depends on the audience and you
Yes.
design it accordingly. Oh,
Yes.
that's great. So many students today learn from apps or different platforms. They are learning these languages. And how do you see the role of technology in all these things?
Okay. So technology is actually a very valuable tool that has expanded the access to language learning. There
Mhm.
are numerous apps. For example, there are online platforms, digital dictionaries, language exchange communities, AI powered tools, and whatnot. And these allows learners to engage with the language far beyond the traditional classroom setting.
Mm.
One of the greatest advancement of technology is flexibility. So learners can practice vocabulary, grammar, listening, pronunciation at their own pace. And also according to the schedule, and this is actually very helpful because I have noticed that there are various learners who have which have like they have their own pace of understanding, learning, everything. So these digital platforms also provide access to authentic materials such as new articles, podcasts, video, literature, and these enable the learners also these the news articles which can be provided. For example, we are teaching German, so how can we come across the news that is going on in German or learn about the culture of Germany, right? So for that, again, we have the digital platform from where we can access to the news, the events that is happening in Germany and other German speaking countries. So in one way, that is a thing. And then if we talk further about the technology, it is particularly effective for developing consistency. Features such as progress tracking, interactive exercises, so they help learners to maintain regular practice and retain vocabulary more efficiently. It's just like it has become just like a game. There are streaks now. So it shows you that this is the day you have not practiced German. So if you don't do it, if you have done it for 20 days and on 21st you are not practicing, so you also have that kind of fear that, okay, fine, now
Right.
that prize is not there anymore.
Right.
So
Yes. I mean, it's so interactive that people find it very engaging.
yeah.
True.
So, and on the top of it, technology exists to supplement
Hmm.
the what we are having right now. This is a complete replacement of human interaction in a language teaching is not possible. Language is a mass of communication, right? And it develops fluency, requires meaningful conversation, cultural understanding, and the ability to respond simultaneously in real situations. So these aspects are often strengthened through interaction with teachers, peers, and most importantly, with native speakers. So, yes, overall, technology has made learning more accessible. I would say it has made it interactive and learner centered, but it's a complement to the traditional teaching method, not a replacement.
Okay. Mhm. Sure. Swapnil, you have presented your work internationally as well. So I would like to know what subjects have you presented, and also how valuable are conferences and academic exchanges for researchers?
Okay. So I have widely presented on fairy tales only. So as
Mhm.
my research interests are again mentioned, that is fairy tales, memes that comes from the theory of memetics from Richard Dawkins and Susan Blackmore, and then further used by Jack Zives to connect it to the fairy tales. So I have been
Okay.
working about on this, and then I have
Mhm.
presented on these themes, like along with it,
Mhm.
and then my research findings that I have done during my PhD and MPhil. So yes, I have presented here. I have presented in national seminars, international webinars. So yeah, and I would say it was a very good experience. If we talk about the importance of these conferences and academic exchanges, so I would say that they are extremely valuable for the researchers.
Mhm.
They provide opportunities, and it's not only about presenting one's work. Fine, I'm getting an opportunity to go out and presenting my work, telling the world what I feel and think about this particular topic. But at the same time, I am in an environment which is full of other intellectual people, other people in
Mhm.
various fields. We can have intellectual dialogue, collaboration, professional growth. We can have feedbacks about my own paper. A dialogue with them can make us give us a new way of thinking about the idea or the subject we are still working, like we are currently working on. So
Yeah.
there are various benefits of the conferences, and yeah, I mean, it gives us again, along with the perspective, it also gives us questions. People ask questions,
Mhm.
and that's actually very important. And thanks to these questions, we can see the gap in our own research, and then this is the way forward,
Mhm.
something that I could not think of. But thanks to
Mhm.
them, now they have let me know about my shortcomings in a way. And yeah, I can overcome that. I can read further and manage this gap. When we converse with these people, we come to know about other emerging trends, methodologies,
Mhm.
debates which are going on in my field, which I might not be able to, which I might
Mhm.
be unaware of. There are chances, right? And yeah, again, and this not only happens through the debate, but also through listening to other person's presentations.
Mhm.
And then, as we are talking about language and culture, so one culture can interpret one work in a certain way, but at the same time, the other culture with a totally different perspective and lens and other methodology, a combination obviously is there. So they can interpret it in a very different way.
Mhm.
So for me, because these things for me have been very interesting. So I feel that that's why it's like it helps you grow. You cannot grow without conferences and exchanges.
Oh, I totally agree with you. Swapnil, continuing on your fairy tale adaptation thing, so you worked on media adaptations and digital cultures as well.
Mhm.
How interesting it is to study fairy tales in the context of memes and online culture.
Okay, so first of all, I need to mention that this term meme, people do confuse
Mhm.
with it. The word meme
Okay.
that I have used in my theory, in my work,
Mhm.
is from the theory of memetics from Richard Dawkins, Susan Blackmore, and then further used by Jack Fives. This is not the normal meme that we see on social media, which is a picture taken from a culture. It is, one can say that it is an
Mhm.
adaptation from there, but again, it's not the theory that I have used. So yeah, meme for me is basically, as I go, like, not for me, I'm so sorry. It's like, according to Richard Dawkins and Susan Blackmore, it is
Mhm.
basically an idea that transforms from one brain to the other,
Mhm.
right? So it's just like gene. As we have a genetic sequence, even the memes have that. So one particular chromosome can be replaced with some other chromosome, and the sequence changes. In the same
Okay.
way, yeah, this the same thing happens with meme, and this is why Richard Dawkins called it meme, because he wanted a
Mhm.
similarity with gene. What
Mhm.
happens here? There's an idea which has transformed. Okay, fine. If we
Mhm.
think about Snow White, what do I feel? What will
Mhm.
come to my head? In my head, it will be having a young woman, a young girl, I would say, because she was 7 years old. So, and then it was she was 12 years old, and so on. So that poisonous apple, stepmother, and the huntsman who was sent by the queen to kill the Snow White. At the same time, this rivalry, this jealousy, everything will come to my head. So these things are interconnected. So this is a meme. Now it's not only a word in itself, but it contains a combination of ideas,
Mm.
right?
Right. Huh.
Yeah. So all the fairy tale elements, the figures, the like motifs, everything is a meme. And when we
Mm.
talk about a fairy tale, so it
Mm.
is basically a combination of meme which can be called as memeplex.
Okay. Mm.
Okay. So, for
Mm.
example, the stepmother is there. When we hear about the stepmother who's evil, who's a witch, and
Mm.
she's cannibal also, right? So, again, various ideas related to the
Mm.
stepmother. We had Snow White, and then we had Apple. Now, what is Apple? Apple also has various ideas related to it because if we go to the biblical stories, let's go to the story of Adam and Eve.
Huh.
The
Okay.
Eve ate apple, and then it was
Mm.
the first sin that is considered, right? The
Mm.
curiosity
Right.
also, but then okay. So now these combination of memes form a fairy tale,
Mm.
right? So what
Right.
happens with time? I'm coming back to the adaptability of fairy tale because
Okay.
through this theory of memetics,
Mm-hmm.
Black Science has also mentioned how he has explained this adaptability, that
Mm-hmm.
fairy tales over time in this from this pool of memes, this memeplex, first
Mm.
various memes get removed and
Mm.
then various other gets added,
Okay.
right? The core
Mm.
is still the same. We still have the
Mm.
stepmother, we still have the Snow White, Apple, missing father, and whatnot. But
Mm.
the storyline remains almost same,
Mm.
right? So, and this is the adaptability, having the same storyline but changing very like some of the elements. We have adapted the fairy tales according to the changing society.
Right.
Example, again coming to your answer about the media adaptations,
Mm-hmm.
why did it happen? Why was I interested in it? Because Snow White story we have seen, and it was actually Disney's 1937 version of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs that
Oh,
made
yes.
famous worldwide. Yeah, I really am not sure how many people would be there. Like there might be people who don't know about it, but if I dare to guess, I think more than 50% people on the world know the tales who are interested. If you're interested in fairy tales, then more than 80%, right? So
Right.
thankfully, it was the film digital adaptation which made not only this story but also Grimm's Brothers and Disney famous worldwide.
Mm. Yes.
And what did they
Right.
do? The story was same, but they romanticized it,
Mm.
right? So they also adapted,
Correct.
like transformed it, changed it,
Yes.
right? And
Totally.
yeah, and since then it has been changing now. So, if I could talk about my PhD work, I have,
Mm-hmm.
in fact, my MPhil work, I have worked on Once Upon a Time. This is a TV series by ABC, again, like under Disney. And
Mm.
here, finally, it was that when we talk about the stepmother, a
Mm.
background story to the stepmother was given.
Right.
So digital media is not only giving you readapting the fairy tales, but also giving
Mm.
it a new perspective.
Mm.
Now, if we talk about again films, TV series, and all, various media have their own ability, their own space, which can be
Mm.
used to tell the story like a fairy tale having, because
Mm.
they have various characteristics, they have to have a certain length, so they might be remembered, they should not be boring, the repetition and everything should be there. But at the same time, film adaptation, and on the top of it, TV series adaptation
Mm.
is giving you
Mm.
more platform, more space
Mm.
to work with the characters. And finally there we can like see not only the stepmother's background, but even the background of her own mother,
Mm.
again leading back why did these things happen. Fairy tale tell us, okay, the stepmother was evil, just
Mm.
because you said I should trust it. But
Right.
what is evil here and in what context?
Yes.
Right. So I would say,
Right.
thanks to media adaptations, now we are
Mm-hmm.
questioning this binarity between good and bad.
Correct.
So that's why for me it is amazingly interesting. But yeah, that depends on other viewers as well.
Absolutely. You have expressed it beautifully.
Thank you.
And I agree with you. Like these media adaptations have made us more familiar with with these fairy tales. I agree. In addition to German, which other languages interest you, Swapnil?
In addition to German, actually, I am a person who is like trying to be all over the place. So at times, other things are also there for Italian, for example. And there was a time when I was interested in Urdu as well. But then it's like, I'm getting back. Okay, fine.
Mhm.
Let's just, stick with one first and then maybe with other. So I have not been learning anything else, but I have been
Okay.
trying to get into Hindi literature in a way.
Oh,
Because,
okay.
yeah, like, because fairy tales and then folklore. Under
Yes.
folklore comes myth, uh, uh, folk tales, and fairy tales, all.
Mhm.
So I was thinking of, working more on myth, Indian myth. So because I have grown up watching these TV series, B.R. Chopra's and Ramanand Sagar, B.R. Chopra's Mahabharat, Ramanand Sagar's
Correct.
Ramayan, and
Mhm.
other, like, I have watched also contemporary adaptations of these myths and epics. So yeah, I'm like, I'm thinking of more working more over it. So because of,
Okay.
less time and less energy in a way, so I'm redirecting my energy there.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
So, on what projects are you working on right now?
Okay, right now I have started with this representation of feminine monstrosity.
Oh, okay.
Right, because I've already
Mhm.
worked with Snow White, and for my
Mhm.
PhD also I have worked there with you say stepmother, the
Mhm.
background, the fundaments of that. The Snow White's fairy tale started with how she was a mother, biological mother of Snow White in the 1810 manuscript, and then 1812 adaptation or edition as well. But later
Okay.
on, in order to adapt it to the dominant norms of the society, the Grimm's brothers changed her, transformed her into a stepmother, and later
Mhm.
on she transforms into a witch. So again, because she was not able to stay, like, prove herself, and she was not willing to stay on the
Mhm.
moral level of the society. She had to, a woman, if you are not a good mother, you cannot be a mother, right? So she had to be she transformed into a stepmother, which who was not related to the child at all. So
Mhm.
starting from there, then I have worked on the representation of witches, how the history of witches, like how the witches came into existence. Christianity forced those
Mhm.
women who could earn, who could make brew ale and then sell. So in order to take over that business, Christianity basically transformed them into witches, and then from there came various, brooms, cats, and whatnot. So yeah, I'm thinking of focusing more on that, and
Oh, that's a very different perspective, actually. The whole ecosystem has evolved around witches, right?
yes,
Great. This was a lovely conversation, Swapnil.
thank
I
you.
just loved it. And thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. I really loved the conversation with you. And it actually, talking about this, you can see my face. Like, I'm like, I cannot
I
stop that happiness and the feeling right now.
can see that, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for joining me in conversation with Swapnil. See you in the next episode. Till then, have a good day. Bye bye.